Greetings, Goddess Body Mind Spirit community. This is Tyra Omilade, your Goddess Guru, here to share a word of inspiration with you on your path to self-realization and self-mastery. Today is July 8th. This is the second video that I'm making today. I don't know what's going on, but I'm ready to talk. Um, I talked about how Mercury retrograde, this time before and after is going earlier in another video, and just feeling like I'm ending the day on a pretty good note. So, like I said earlier, won't complain. Just very social. I'm noticing I'm getting lots of messages, and I really have no expectations of how many people are going to come to my classes. And I had a nice size class today. I was like, oh, okay. So my classes are a bit social for me. So Mercury is a social sign. It represents social, you know, to and fro, here and there. So um, I've been pondering something. I just want to take a time to kind of share my ponderings. Oftentimes people want to know, how do I know what I know? And yeah, I do read quite a bit, have always enjoyed reading. Uh, and But the other thing that I do, and I talk to probably the ones in my the reading cipher in my Patreon about how pondering is actually like a superpower. And that is actually one of the best gifts that I have. If you have anything regarding the mind that's Saturnian, which I do, um, it will allow you the ability, when you are in balance, to think deeply on a thing. And some people, they can do it naturally, just deep thinkers. And then some people, you have to maybe get a little older. You have to develop the ability to think deeply. And I call it pondering. And so oftentimes the way I go deeper, the way I deep dive into a subject is I'll ponder a thing. I'll look for examples to show up in my day. So there's a concept from the Pathways oracles that I use called isolation. That's one of the energies that speak when someone is perhaps out of balance. And initially I was like, isolation is a pathway out of the soul, because it's pathways into, pathways out, and pathway support. And I was like, to me, isolation is good. Like when we're initiating, we go into isolation. We're trying to cut ourselves off from the world. When our men speaks, it's time to go into isolation. So I'll call it positive isolation versus negative isolation. So what the pathways is speaking to is the negative isolation. And I came up with an example of a friend who had something happen to her, and it sort of created a little bit of a distance between us. Maybe not now, but at one point there was a little bit of a distance. And she started sort of realizing, this isolation actually isn't working. I'm like starting to get a little dysfunctional, and I'm starting to, I'm not getting any better, and that was when I first began to realize, maybe I sort of get the negative aspects of isolation, because isolation is related oftentimes, according to the Pathways Oracle, to when we go into a place where we've lost something. There's been a major change, and that change involves loss. So examples that it gave are things like divorce, or I would even think, losing someone significant in your life, um, losing a job, So, and this is a time where we might be actually experiencing loss. And so what some people do is they may go into isolation. And a lot of times, and this is according to the oracle, but also I see it in my friend, they feel different. So they'll think, maybe people don't understand, or the group that I was in. So I have one friend who described it's different when you are a part of a group where everyone's married. Like let's say you're a parent at a high school, it's a small high school. Most everybody's married and you're the only one that shows up single. I don't care about that kind of thing, but one friend expressed this is something that she's experienced where she feels a little bit different and that she doesn't fit in. And it creates like, okay, I only show up when I have to. And when I do, I'm not real social. So isolation is, we experience loss. We feel different. Our status has changed. Something's different. And we don't feel like we fit in. We don't even really know where we fit in. And we don't really know how to deal with it. And so what do? We go in isolation. This is what I call negative isolation. So I truly believe we have positive isolation and negative isolation. Well, today I was participating in a webinar, and a woman who had plans on having a super successful career has had some type of relapse in her health. And so she was saying that she now is homebound and she's trying to figure out what kind of business can she have? What can she do? Not only is she homebound, she's not well. And so the person who was leading it gave her some suggestions on things that she could do. Well, another lady chimed in, and this really blew my mind. This woman said she had had some type of illness where she couldn't even talk. She and her partner had created some type of code so that what she did was when she got sick, she started getting on social media to connect with people, other people who were like her perhaps, and homebound, not expecting to be this sick. But this lady couldn't even talk. They created a code for her to blink her eyes, and the people watching would know her answer based on eye blinks because she couldn't even talk. Well, you can't even tell that she's been sick now. She looks like the picture of health. And so the person that was facilitating the call today said, I bet you got through that situation better because you weren't in complete isolation. Even just being able to blink your eyes and connect with other people probably helped you, didn't it? She was like, oh, absolutely. Because not only was she able to help people, people were able to help her. It really fed her. And that's what isolation speaks to. It speaks to the remedy for this pathway out of the soul. The negative isolation, it takes you out of your soul. It puts you in a place where you feel alone, you feel separated, and you might even be in a place of, what do we call it, immobility. You may feel immobile. And so it's the oracle says that it's best to get out, even if you're not out talking about your problems. But one of the remedies for isolation is to get out and talk to people, even if it's just go out for a cup of coffee. The other remedy would be to do something nice for someone. And I know we can do something nice. It doesn't all the time take a lot to do something nice. So sometimes when I have felt the most distraught, I would force myself to speak to people when I was out and about. Because, nowadays people don't really speak. I'm even guilty of just putting up a wall around me. Sometimes I just get a little disappointed with the way people act. So it's like, you know what? I'm just going to keep my little sensitive butt shielded. But typically what I'll do is I'll make sure I look for somebody who's trying to make eye contact and I smile. How are you doing? Is you having a good night? All right, enjoy the rest of your shopping. It could be volunteering somewhere. Some of the most touching stories I've ever seen is a homeless person gets some money or get some food, and then one of their homeless buddies shows up and they share their money, their food. So if a homeless person can do it, it's like we can do this. We can go find something nice to do for someone else. Because what is evident is that isolation will definitely put us in a place where we basically descend into that negative spot even more. and it doesn't fix anything. And I think I told the Patreon members that one time, I remember a long time ago, my husband preached a sermon. It was called Come Out the Cave. Actually, he preached this on Mother's Day. I was like, oh my God, is this a Mother's Day sermon? Man, folks was walking out the church and everything. He was like, this is what God told me to tell y'all. And it wasn't even his church. Like, we had never been to this church. Anywho, I'll never forget the sermon. It was called Come Out the Cave. And he was talking about how a lot of times we are in a cave, it's dark, and we think we're in there alone. But if we would but turn on the light, light a candle, do something, we would see how many people are in there just like us. And maybe we can help each other a little bit, maybe we can help each other a lot, maybe we can help each other get to some help that we need. But definitely, the more we stay in isolation, it's like being in that dark cave. We think we're there alone. We think nobody else is going through this. And it just doesn't make things better, is what I'm telling, what I'm seeing. For the one lady, we'll say her name is Amy. Amy is on there like totally different from the rest of us. I'm homebound and I'm sick, but I need a business. We're like, oh. And then a lady named Jill chimes in, who is like, Amy, I've been there. I know that. Please contact me. It was like, you can't make this stuff up. The facilitator was like, this is crazy amazing. So I just encourage you, if you're someone who is in isolation and it's not a good place, it's not positive isolation, it's immobilizing you, it's making you fester in whatever this thing is that has happened, then I encourage you to turn on the light, come out the cave. I encourage you to go and socialize with people. You don't have to talk about your problem, but get out and about, and the life force energy of just, I'm not even trying to, like, I didn't think about this beforehand. It just came to my mind. Mercury is about being out and about, especially when we're looking at Mercury ruling the third house. It's about being out and about in your neighborhood, the day-to-day goings on. We are social beings. And so when we get out and about, it helps us to make a connection. Even if we're not talking to a lot of people, it helps to bring a level of vibrancy to us. And so that's something that's very important. If you experience a loss, yeah, there might be a little bit of time where we have to sort of like stay to ourselves, to gather ourselves. But at some point, we'll have to come out of isolation and connect with people. I've noticed moms who I know who recently lost their underage, young children, 18 and under, are on social media quite a bit. It's like they get out there and they just broadcast like, y'all, I'm so distraught. I don't know what to do. A lot of us, we don't live close to the people. Like one of my friends that this happened to, she's in Virginia and I'm here. And she broadcast it on social media and all of us are replying to her. So, that was her way of coming out the cave. She was in and out. There were times when you didn't see anything from her, and then there were times when you saw stuff from her. Another lady that I know from Zumba World, her son died last year, was killed last year, and she has basically just reached out to through social media. She makes posts and we all come to her rescue. And I know everybody grieves differently. But even the ones who are a little bit, what's the word I'm looking for? Introverted. You have to find your way of coming out the cave. You may not come out the cave on social media, but I have a good friend. She just cracks me up. You know who you are because you're in Patreon. She goes out to coffee shops and restaurants, juice bars. She could just go even to Home Depot. And she just has this kind of personality where people just want to talk to her. And she's rather introverted. But I can just see how that brings life to her. Even if she's out at a, like a coffee shop, just drinking a little bit, not really talking to anybody, I just really can tell that just brings life to her. Another friend, she was mentioning how there are people who work from home, and in order to feel like, you're making a connection with somebody, there's these meetups you can do with other people who work from home so you can make that connection. Making these mercurial connections, they're not super deep necessarily, but the other thing that I was thinking about with just thinking about Mercury and Gemini and all that kind of good stuff, it's the same energy as Eshu Alegua. It's our life force energy. Eshu is the keeper of the Ashe. Yes, Eshu, delivers the messages, but Eshu Alegua is the keeper of the Ashe. And so this ability for us to connect, it really does help our Ashe. Now, we definitely want to make sure that we're going out making, connections that feed our soul. But, there's something to getting out and about being with your fellow human beings. So I hope that this has helped you. It sure helped me to talk about this because I've really been working to wrap my mind around isolation. And this is an opportunity for you all to see I don't know everything, but I ponder and I ponder and I ponder. And after a while, because we've got an isolation, I've pulled this multiple times this year. It's been very difficult for me to talk about because it's like, I don't know if I really get this. So yeah, after a few months of pondering and allowing the universe to bring me some answers, I feel like I have a better grasp of isolation. So this is how it works. This is Tyra Omilade. Thanking you all for your time. Thanking you for watching. Please like the video. Share it if there's somebody who perhaps is in isolation and needs to perhaps get a remedy for to get out of it. You feel free to join me at patreon.com. Goddess Body Mind Spirit. Join me there in one of my ciphers. I have a $5 cipher and it goes on up. And there are things that I share there that I don't share publicly. If you need a reading, you can go to goddessbodymindspirit.com and go to the spiritual readings page. I would love to divine on your behalf. Hey, wishing y'all a great rest of the Mercury retrograde. I'll be releasing the Mercury retrograde video update that I made today first, and then I will release this one. This one is being posted in the Patreon group first. Love y'all. Take care. See you in the next video.